Morning, y'all. It's Ned over My Philippine Dreams, N to the E to the D over at MPD, coming at you from Dumaguete City, the city of gentle people, Negros Oriental, the Philippines, area code 6200, for those trying to get hold of our fan club. We're going to try something a little different today, try something new. This is a live broadcast. I tried testing this before, a couple of weeks ago, and it seems to have worked pretty well. The only limitation we have is our Philippines internet. Our download speed is about 8 megabits, but our upload speed, which is what this live broadcast is about 0.5 megabits. I got it set for 360p, so the video quality is not going to be that great. And again, I'm running the little slideshow on the back. Right now you can see the dolphins at Bais up in Manhuyod. That was a nice day, traveling around the Philippines. And what I want to do is I actually want to try to do 2 live broadcasts a week. One being this week in the Philippines, which is just a summary of the news and stuff that's been going on that might affect us as expatriates living in the Philippines. And another one on like just a general Q&A thing where you guys can, I'll make the free ebook that we have, the 53-page ebook on the good and bad and living in the Philippines and the ugly sometimes. And just do a general Q&A. I'll see if I can involve Michelle in that. Michelle's on this weird schedule with work and everything where she sleeps to about noon. Right now it is Friday morning, 9 a.m. in the Philippines, and she is dead asleep. So, first things we're going to talk about this week in the Philippines is some good news and some bad news. First, we'll get to the good news because I like to start with the good news. And the good news is that the exchange rate for the US dollar is at about 48.3 right now. This last Monday, I believe it was at 48.4, so it's gone down a little bit. And there's a multiple number of reasons that this is happening. And one of them has to do with the state of political stability in the Philippines. There's been ever since the new president took office, there has been a huge, substantial drop in foreign investment in the stock market and their bourses. And this has caused some problems for the Philippine peso, which has been weakening ever since President Duterte came into office. Now, with that said, you have to keep in mind that this could be long-term or it could be short-term. Actually, he got very upset with the United States and he's upset at the EU and the UN. He's basically upset at everybody because they're questioning what's going on with the extrajudicial summary execution of all these drug dealers around the Philippines. So this is causing problems for the Philippines, but it's making the dollar stronger. Now, the problem I have is to exchange or not to exchange. Usually my policy is every time it goes up a peso, every time it increases by 1 whole peso, I try to exchange a good chunk of change. But with the presidential election in the US right now, and the feeling that after the election is over that they're going to be adjusting the interest rates, the dollar could become even stronger against the peso. I actually watched excerpts from the the recent presidential debate between Trump and Hillary Clinton. And one of the things that Trump said that I agreed with is I think there's some politics going on with the interest rates. And they're waiting until the election is over to adjust them. And if that's true, if they're doing it for political reasons, that's not cool. That's pretty gross. But this is about what's going on in the Philippines. The latest yesterday, actually today I believe, President Duterte declared that there's going to be no more war games with the United States. There's actually some maneuvers that are going on, some amphibious exercises that are going on very soon. But he said this is the last time he said, quote unquote, you are scheduled to hold war games again, which China does not want. I would serve notice to you now that this will be the last military exercise. Jointly, Philippines, U.S., the last one. This is what Duterte said. Now this comes following him wanting to get rid of American soldiers down in Mindanao. If you don't know, the United States military forces have been cooperating with the Philippines National Army and trying to deal with Abu Sayyaf, MILF, and some of the insurgencies that's going on down there. I don't think it's active combat roles. I think it's more along surveillance and intelligence gathering. But a few weeks ago, Duterte said that there's too many white people in Mindanao, and he wants them all out. But what's interesting on this declaration that he made, some other government officials have said, oh, no, all the cooperation agreements that we have and all the mutual aid systems that we have in place, and there's actually treaties I think they've had since the 1950s, are going to stay in place. And what Duterte seems to be doing is trying to expand his reaching out for foreign investors, specifically to China and to Russia. And I can't understand this whole China mentality, because if you live in the Philippines, you've been to the Philippines, and you've gone to any of these stores that sell these really cheap Chinese goods, like Unitop, you know that the quality is really bad. And actually, I did a video. I was wandering around, videoing some of the goods that they have for sale at Unitop, and I basically came to the conclusion that China must really hate the Philippines, because the stuff is really gaudy, it's really cheap. But what's interesting is, in the United States, Walmart and Dollar Store and all that stuff, they also sell Chinese goods, but the quality seems to be a lot better. So what I think happens is, China sends their first-rate stuff to the U.S., and the rejects and the things that have slight imperfections or major imperfections go to Unitop. Because Michelle and I were actually shopping there a while ago, and we were looking for just a plastic container. And just about every single plastic container had some major defect, like it was cracked, it was broken, it had holes in it. It was amazing. So that's the latest today, is Duterte saying that he doesn't want to have war games with the United States anymore. But again, there's already a lot of treaties and agreements in place, and so what he's saying and what actually happens might be two separate things. I don't know. All right, let's see if this is going. And I'm going to look at some of the comments. Oh, wow, look at the video quality. It's really bad. And it's actually red. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering. Crazy Joe Expat, do you think it'll go up more? I guess he's referring to the dollar. I don't know. Again, if the U.S. adjusts their interest rates after the election, it could actually go up more. Jason Hickman says within the next few weeks it will reach 50 pesos. That'd be great. I'm gonna wait and see. I was thinking about going into the bank today and cashing out about $5,000, but I'm gonna wait and see. I'm gonna go against my usual waiting when it goes up a point. Yeah, no more war games. Ice Blue says. Yeah, it seems to be buffering really bad. Well, we'll see. Maybe it'll improve. Am I still going? Is this thing still going? It says live, but there's all that buffering. What you might want to do is just wait till it's over and then check it out. All right, next up in the news. President Duterte commenting on the Philippine stock market going down quite a bit ever since he came into office. He says that he's not all that worried about the recent downturn of the country's stock market after drawing flack from drug-related killings in the country. The president, and this is from the Manila Bulletin, asserted that investors are free to leave the country, adding that he is not a believer of the stock market anyway. Interesting. Shares of stocks, he says, unless I see that money converted into hard projects, it's really not worth much, said in his remarks before the Filipino community here last Wednesday night. A foreign credit rating agency earlier expressed concern that the Duterte administration's campaign against illegal drugs might hurt local economic growth. This is referring, I believe, to Standard & Poor's, saying that there's going to be no credit upgrading for the Philippines for the next few years. Now, the Philippine economy has been growing very strongly. A lot of those gains have been going towards the top, 3 or 4% of the population, but it has been growing. There's been a lot of foreign investment with the call centers, But again, we saw all those foreign investors dropping out of the Philippine stock market, selling their shares. Luckily, those shares have been bought up locally by Filipinos who are speculating that it will bounce back. And that's kind of concerning when you have that level of foreign investment like the Philippines has, and these things are happening. It's not great. And Duterte also said they downgraded our credit in a matter of days after I criticized the U.S. presidents. Is that how they run the economy? If you all remember, a while back, President Obama of the United States, he was in Southeast Asia and he wanted to meet with Duterte, and he said one of the things they were going to discuss was these alleged human rights violations, and Duterte got very upset at that. And ever since then, I don't know if it was his personal amor proprio that was violated and he's feeling upset about that, or since he's the president now, he feels like he's responsible for the national amor proprio. Because remember we talked about that amor proprio, that love of self, that self-esteem. It doesn't just happen on a personal level. Also happens on a macro level. That's why Pinoys can sometimes get very sensitive if you say something negative about the Philippines, up to including blacklisting people. There's been a number of cases. I think the Beatles were the first ones to get blacklisted because they wouldn't meet with the Imelda Marcos. Imelda Marcos invited them, and they were, had a busy schedule. They couldn't make it, so they were basically beaten and thrown out of the country, and they were blacklisted. It also happened to Dale Brown, the author, when he described Manila as entering the gates of hell. He was declared persona non grata. And most recently, with YouTube, there was a vlogger who talked about some of the trash on Boracay, on the beach, I believe, or was it Puerto Galera? And they threatened to declare him persona non grata, but it didn't happen. And our most infamous vlogger who incurred the wrath of the Philippine collective psychology was Jimmy Saizeka, which you remember he did that 20 things I don't like about Cebu. And the local Cebu government council, went crazy and declared him persona non grata. And that was actually it was a well-produced video, and he talked about a lot of, real things. But the problem was it wasn't what he said, it was how he said it. He did it in a very kind of disrespectful manner. No offense, Jimmy. I've corresponded with Jimmy in the past. Peace out, brother. All right, up next, talking about the war on drugs and what Duterte is referring as narco-politics in the Philippines. This just came up yesterday. 38 Iloilo officials surrendered to the police for being involved in either the drug trade or being drug users themselves. Now, some of these, it was 5 barangay captains. Barangay is like a smaller part of a city. It's like a community, like a neighborhood. And 23 other officials surrendered. And Iloilo is a large city, a medium-sized city on the southeast corner of Panay, which is just north of Negros. So you have all these people. Some of them were on the police watch list already. And when you hear Duterte talking about this narco politics, and he talks about all the police generals that have been involved and have stepped down, and all the other stuff, there is something going on to this. There is some substance there. There's absolutely some substance there. You got De Lima, the situation that she's in, and De Lima is the one, heading up the congressional investigation against Duterte's alleged human rights violations, and she's been implicated big time. As a matter of fact, one of the guys who's probably going to testify against her now, J.B. Sebastian, he's in prison at MBP, which is a prison which had I think it was $1 billion in shabu business going through it. And allegedly, J.B., I love that name, J.B., he was involved in raising money for De Lima, and there's all this stuff going on. It's really convoluted. I'm not giving my opinion. I'm not casting any judgment on it because I'm just a foreigner. I'm a guest living in the Philippines. But it's all really crazy. So he got